Welcome to this edition of Tech Talk. I am James Wyngaard, the Executive Director for Rice Lake Community Media in Northwest Wisconsin, and being joined by Derek Westby, the Director of WTCO TV in Trempealeau County. Hello, Derek.
Hello, James.
Good to see you again, and we've got another edition of Tech Talk for everybody today.
We sure do. We've got some great stuff on for today.
We do, and we're going to start off, and actually this entire episode of our show is going to be dealing with Windows and not the glass partition between you and the outside. But I know in your office you don't know what that's about.
Oh,
Needle, poke,
ow.
We're going to start off by talking about Windows 10 and Windows 11. Of course, Windows 11 released to the general public not all that long ago. But before we get into Windows 11 and kind of the updates that Microsoft has made to that, let's start off by talking about Windows 10 and kind of where we are with Windows 10. Is it end of life? Are we continuing on? What are we looking at with Windows 10 right now?
Well, first, let's jump all the way back to when Windows came out. So Windows was actually a modification to the Microsoft DOS, so MS-DOS operating system. And that actually came out in 1985. So 5 years before I was born is when Windows came out. That's for the Windows. And what that did was that added a graphical user interface, also known as GUI, to DOS, because DOS didn't have icons and all that kind of stuff. And so now that was 1985, and we're going to jump all the way forward to 2015, which is when Windows 10 came out. Windows 10 came out, which is what most of us are still using, on July 29th of 2015. And that was after the Windows 8.1 was out. Do you remember Windows 8.1?
I do.
Not a whole lot of people had 8.1. It wasn't good. It was kind of like Vista, where it was kind of a mistake.
So I'm going to stop you right there. So let's go back through the history of it. So we had MS-DOS, which was a text-based programming, correct?
Yep.
And then what was the first GUI version of Windows?
It was just called Windows.
Just Windows. Okay.
Gradually, they added more and more to it. I remember, having Windows 3.1. So they went through various iterations with the actual number. Then they started going off kind of, the Microsoft Xbox craziness, where they just picked random names or numbers or whatever, and then it's kind of come back into the normal numbering system.
So there was Windows 95.
Yep, and 98.
There was Windows. Yep, 98, 2000.
And then there was 2000 ME, which was their media edition.
Right.
And then XP became kind of the standard for a long time, until Windows Vista hit the market. And people did not like Windows Vista. It took away the normal start icon that people were used to for all of Windows. It just changed all kinds of stuff. So they then released Windows 7 as a kind of going back to the roots of here's where Windows XP sort of looked like. We're going to make them similar. And then Windows 7, of course, hit end of life in January of 2020. And in between Windows 7 and Windows 10, there was Windows 8 and 8.1, which kind of had the Windows Vista feel to it, where everybody hated it. With Windows 8, it was originally designed for touchscreen computers, but at the time, a lot of people didn't have touchscreens yet. So having a start menu that brings up a full screen start menu that covers your whole screen, that really made people upset. Kind of like when Vista got rid of the start button. So 8 and 8.1, they shrunk down the size of the start menu, and people were okay with it at that point. But then Windows 10 came out, and now that's obviously the Windows standard. And of course, we still have time with Windows 10. Windows 10 does not meet end of life until October 14th of 2025. So there's still a good 4 years left in Windows 10 world.
So, unlike what Apple does, where they update their the complete operating system every year, right? So they do Mac OS every year and iPad OS now and iOS for your iPhones, things like that. Windows has been kind of a start and stop, herky jerky sort of updated pattern, is it not?
Yeah, I mean, so Windows releases, their normal updates, typically weekly, or there's this term that's in the tech world called Update Tuesday. Most of the major updates for Windows will come out on a Tuesday. So, then Tuesday night, make sure you install all your updates and get your computers updated. One thing that Windows has done recently, though, with the end of life of Windows 7 and continuing on, is they've been having the upgrades to the software be free. It used to be you had to pay for, to go between one and the other and the other and the other. But right now, there's a lot of Windows 10 machines that when you go into your update menu in Control Panel, it'll say upgrade to Windows 11. Or in the case of the computer I have at my house, you can't update this one to Windows 11. So I would say, go to Windows 10, 11, but wait another month or two for them to work all the bugs out before you fully go into Windows 11.
And that's an interesting thing to talk about, because people in your, well, I guess our profession, but yours specifically, when it comes to computers and fixing and technology and things like that, everybody always says, without hesitation, update, update, update. Keep your computer updated. Whenever you get that information, update it. Because if you don't, the world's coming to an end and it's all going to crash and burn and it's going to just turn into a fiery, smoking pile of rubble, and the dreaded blue screen of doom will come on. Well, now that we're looking at going from Windows 10 to Windows 11, now what I'm hearing a lot of people say is, oh, wait. Push the brakes for a minute. Let it kind of feel itself out, and then go to 11 if you're so desirous. Now, on the flip side of that, when I came here, most of the computers here in Rice Lake at the Media Center were still, and actually I think one or two of them still are, on Windows 7. But that's now end of life, and we just haven't updated them over to 10 yet. So is there really a pressing need for people to go, if they still are clinging on to that historical perspective of looking at Windows 7, to go to Windows 10, or now maybe even make that jump to Windows 11?
Well, I think that a lot of it is, if you still have Windows 7, your hardware probably won't be compatible with Windows 11 because it's such a jump in hardware since end of life Windows 7 to Windows 10 and 11. If you have Windows 7, I would definitely say still go to Windows 10 if you can, because again, that doesn't meet end of life until 2025. If it's Windows 7 now, the computer probably would be replaced by that point. Computers really are only good for about 5 to 7 years. So if you've got one that's 10, 15 years old, you've gotten your money's worth out of it. They're not made to last forever. The hardware, you buy a laptop and it's obsolete a week later because the new hardware came out. So I would say at least still go to Windows 10. Because Windows 7, when that met end of life in 2020, January of 2020, There's no longer security updates or patches or any of that. It's just done. So as of January of 2020, which was almost 2 years ago, all support and updates have been cut off. So that computer is no longer secure. It's open to vulnerabilities. Windows 10 will be good, until 2025, unless they, of course, do like what they did with the Windows 7, where end of life is here, and then they moved it just a little bit and moved it just a little bit to allow people to continue to switch over. But I would say, yes, always keep your Windows up to date, but don't necessarily update to the new operating system until it's been out long enough for people to find the bugs and have those patched.
These are very complicated programs to get an entire operating system and an entire, really, I guess, environment for your computer and really a worldwide computer system to operate in, because, I mean, it's no big secret that Microsoft still has the vast majority of operating system penetration within the PC world or the computer world across the world. So in order for it to actually function the way that they had intended it to, people still have to get in there and run their everyday business and I guess both at home or at work and find those little quirks that may not be running as intended. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah, and of course, before they fully release the operating system, they put it through all sorts of beta testing. They release it to software companies and all that kind of stuff. So when we say Windows 11 came out on October 5th, 2021, that's to the public. Large, huge corporations like Adobe and I guess Microsoft with their Office products and all these other companies that design software, they've had it probably a year or two to develop software that would work in that environment. But another thing you have to remember is a software program is billions upon billions of lines of code. I don't know if you've ever, right-clicked on a website and said show source and then saw this giant mess of code. One little typo in there, if you put a period in the wrong spot, you can take the whole thing down and it can crash and burn. So, like Windows 11 with their, hundreds of billions of lines of code, there could be a glitch here that they just have to fix, but somebody has to find the glitch there to fix it.
And that's why they get paid a heck of a lot more than we get paid.
Yes, Microsoft is definitely going to pay you better than community media does, but it's sure going to burn you out faster.
True. So when we look at the differences, the main differences between Windows 10 and Windows 11, and admittedly I haven't looked into 11 all that closely as of yet, but it seems to me that Microsoft is kind of following, and I don't know if this is really an accurate analogy or comparison, but they're following kind of the Apple platform where they're trying to incorporate or integrate what the iPhone and the iPad, they want to make all of the screens more or less look the same. And when I see some of the screenshots of Windows 11, a lot of that looks like what we've seen on Windows PCs, which I suppose would be running Windows anyway, so I don't know as if that's really necessarily a good comparison or not.
Yeah, Windows 11 has a few aesthetic changes. It's still physically doing what you have always done in Windows, but it's very aesthetically different. The start menu no longer is all the way across the bottom. It's very much like the Mac operating system, where it's kind of in the middle and expands out. The start menu pops up kind of like how in a Mac, when you click on your applications folder, it pops up a little box out of the folder in the toolbar. So Windows is doing a very similar feel to that, but I think that's kind of the way everyone is going. I mean, even like the freeware like Linux, they're starting to shift towards the everything in the middle and expanding out. one of the things that I guess I'm a little hesitant on with Windows 11 is it doesn't seem as touchscreen friendly as you would expect it to be. Although I haven't looked too much into it because I don't have a Windows 11 machine yet. I'm assuming there's probably a setting you can change to make it, more of a touchscreen. Because I know in a lot of PCs you can put it in tablet mode where the screen, all the icons get bigger. But it seems like it wasn't quite as initially set up that way. And I think a lot of that is people are still using, they're still using their mouse. I mean, I'm using my mouse here. You're using them. Everybody uses a mouse. People are going touchscreen, but I don't think it's going as fast as people thought it was going to go. Or a lot of people will have a touchscreen and still use the mouse.
Right. Which is interesting because, as you're fully aware, I just got a new laptop here at the station, and it is a touchscreen, but for the most part, we still use the mouse and the keyboard and everything else, or the trackpad. Is that ultimately, do you think, the way that things are going to go, where everything is going to be all touchscreen and, just tap, tap, tap rather than type, type, type?
So I remember my junior year of high school. This was one of the questions they brought up.
Lo, these many years ago.
And yes, that would have been about 17 years ago, maybe 18 years ago. They said, is the mouse a thing of the past? And everybody in my class said, oh yeah, everyone's going to go with touchscreen. Nobody's going to use mice. It's going to be 5 years. Well, it's been 18 and we still rely heavily on a mouse. So in my opinion, at least until, I don't know, people who are currently 18 die off, they're still going to be using a mouse. I think some of the younger generations are going to be more used to not having one. Touchscreens are great, but sometimes it's easier to type, click, type, click, than to type, poke, like that, because you're gonna. It's just easier. Your hands are right here. I think touchscreens have a place. In our control room here, we have touchscreens to run our county boardroom microphones, so we can turn them on. Because then when we're down, switching cameras, we can go, oh, why isn't their mic on? And just poke it. We don't have to figure out which one of the two mice goes to that or two keyboards goes to that computer. So there is a place for it. I just think it's not going to be 100% domination because we're all so used to using, our mice.
Was Windows 10, was the original idea of that to get into this touchscreen world and, all-in-ones and convertibles and all that sort of thing, and then it just kind of fell off the cliff? Or do you think that 11 is going to find some happy balance in between the mouse people of the world and the touchscreen people of the world?
Well, I think that Windows 8 was their attempt at going to a more touchscreen-centric environment. I think that a lot of devices have what's called tablet mode now, where you can tell Windows, I want it to be more touchscreen, but it doesn't come set up to be more touchscreen. It more or less, you have to say, I want to use it for touchscreen reasons. Or some of them are the computers where you can undock the screen. And that one of the laptops we have here, when you undock the screen, it puts it into tablet mode. Because it knows you're going to be carrying it around and poking at it. But I think that by default, everything's going to continue to be in mouse world, and touchscreen is going to be an option that you can enable, but doesn't come enabled, if that makes any sense.
The phrase that I was thinking was kind of necessary evil, but I don't know as if that's really a fair thing to say either, because if you go to, at home, I admit that I'm an Apple guy, so I've got, I've got my iPad and I've got my my Mac Mini and all that sort of thing. And of course, iPad is more or less all touch, but now with the latest iterations of the iPad Pro, you're looking at the docks with the I forget the name of it now, but it's the one where you snap the iPad onto it, then there's the keyboard underneath, and the Dock Pro or whatever it's called. And so, I mean, even that has kind of drifted away a little bit from being strictly touch, poke, poke, to typey, poke every now and again if you have to. And then, of course, you throw on the Apple Pencil and all that other stuff too. And and now the pros they have mouse integration that they used to not have, and so that's even gone kind of the way of mouse world now too.
Yeah, I think that tablet devices like that, they're adding these features in so they can sell more tablets. I think that tablets are highly portable. They're very easy to carry around, even compared to some laptops. But people are still wanting that demand of physical control, the mouse, the keyboard. They've always kind of had Bluetooth keyboards for tablets and that kind of stuff, to turn them into sort of laptops, but not really. But I think that what people are really seeing is the huge boost in sales of Chromebooks, which don't run, Windows or iOS. They run Chrome OS, which is, a whole nother show we could do on that. But they're seeing a huge spike in that because of the simplicity of it. You log in, you have your Google, and that's it. You can browse the internet, you can use Google Docs. Not much more you can do with that. And
right. And if you get away from an internet source, well, good luck.
Right. Chromebooks, once there's no internet, they're kind of useless. But there's still been this huge shift towards those type of devices simply because of the ease of use. It pops up and says, hey, you have an update. Click here. You don't have a choice. You click the button. Where Windows and that kind of, and Apple have the option of delaying updates. You shouldn't, but you can. There's a lot that goes into choosing a computer and looking at what you need versus what the computer has and all that kind of stuff. But nothing seems to be beating the simplicity of open it up and you have 4 options.
Right. As we've drifted a little bit away from our title topic here, Windows 10 became a personal device, a business device, an enterprise device. Is that something that have you heard anyway that Windows 11 will be going to as well?
Well, I'm sure there's going to be different versions of it. I haven't looked into it yet. A lot of computers, will probably go Windows 11. I'm guessing Windows 11, has a Pro version because they like to upsell the Pro version or that kind of stuff. Like Windows 10 has Home, Home S, and Pro.
Well, and just straight S mode too.
Oh yes, and just straight S mode, which is kind of turns it into a Chromebook, a Microsoft version of a Chromebook. And there's all kinds of Windows operating systems that people don't know about because they're server based. For example, the latest server Windows is Windows 2018, Server 2018. And there was Server 2012, then the 2012 R2. There's all kinds of internal stuff that you don't know about. And we're getting kind of low on time here to talk about all this, but there's so many versions of Windows that people don't know about that it's just amazing.
It really is, and as you say, we're running a bit short on time here, and we could probably talk for another half hour about some of the differences and similarities of it, and any thoughts one way or the other as to how soon you're going to, or how long you're going to hold on to your Windows 10 machine before you switch over to 11, or is 11 even in your future?
11's definitely in my future. I generally try to wait about a year after a new operating system comes out to go to it. Especially on the Windows side. On the Apple side, usually I don't, because they update so regularly that it's not like a completely new build, where Windows 11 is a completely new build. So I would say probably by this time next year I'll be in the Windows 11 world, unless I'm forced to go there sooner by some other circumstances. But I'm definitely going to go to Windows 11, just maybe not this year.
Before we go, give me two features of Windows 11 that you're most looking forward to using.
Well, I'm definitely looking forward to the new layout. I've gotten kind of used to it with my Mac that I have personally, but not having to go into so many submenus on like a start menu to find things. That's definitely going to be a bonus for me. And it appears that like the built-in software for email is more extensively built out, like towards Outlook. So it's not like the Windows 10 built-in mail client. It's a little more robust and does a little more. So I'm looking forward to some of those features as well.
Very good. And so we'll keep a watch on how things develop. And Windows 10, of course, as you mentioned, is end of life 4 years down the road yet. So people will certainly have time to wish Windows 10 well in its future endeavors and get ready for Windows 11 down the road at some point.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of Tech Talk. I'm the Executive Director of Rice Lake Community Media, James Wyngaard, and you are?
I'm Derek Westby, the Director of WTCO and the Digital Media Department at Trempealeau County.
The newly named Digital Media Department.
Yes.
All right, and we will see you next time on Tech Talk.